Answers. Everyone is looking for answers. In the second episode of Dune Prophecy, Valya and Tula look for answers to their question in two different places. How could both Reverend Mother Kasha and Pruwet Richese, Ines Corinna's fiancé, be attacked at the same time? The mystery surrounding Desmond Hart and how he is able to carry out these acts remain a mystery, but both Tula and Valya Harkonnen were able to gain new insights. The episode provides an interesting insight into the inner and outer workings of the Bene Gesserit and what they are willing to sacrifice in their search for answers. It also confronts Valya and Tula with their greatest fears. In this video, we take a closer look at Valya and Tula and how their actions work both in a personal context as characters and in the context of the sisterhood. But since the Bene Gesserit aren't the only ones who know how to manipulate, I'd also like to take a quick look at two other characters, as each of them made a very striking statement. I'll also throw in my knowledge of Frank Herbert's books, and there will be no spoilers for Dune Prophecy. The episode clearly shows how determined Valya is to protect the Bene Gesserit. She even sacrifices her role as head mistress in order to conduct research on Salusa Secundus. This step alone is clearly difficult for her, as she even reluctantly hands over the key to the genetics archive to her own sister Tula, noting that difficult decisions must be made for the good of the entire sisterhood. On Salusa Secundus, she takes on Kasha's role herself for the time being in order to find out more about Desmond Hart until a replacement for Kasha's position as Truthsayer has been found. When Valya and Desmond meet for the first time, we see a very interesting confrontation. When she asks him what brought him to the palace, Desmond replies with the word faith, which makes Valya laugh. Because for the Bene Gesserit, faith is nothing personal, but a tool of control. In my video from episode 1, I talked about the Missionaria Protectiva, so if you're interested in how the Bene Gesserit use religion for their own ends, you are welcome to take a look. But back to the interaction between Desmond and Valya. Our two main rivals meet for the first time in the interrogation, and the positions are seemingly clear. Desmond as the accused perpetrator, sitting in a cell, and Valya as Mother Superior and the Emperor's truthsayer. The balance of power seems clear, and yet Valya doesn't really get what she wants. She gets to confirm that Desmond is responsible, but she doesn't get to see how he did it or what his exact motives are. The fact that the Emperor and his wife don't want to punish him but want to make use of his gift also makes him an equal opponent for Valya. We also see this at the end of episode 2, where Valya suffers an extreme loss of control, both because she has lost her influence at court and because her use of the voice has no effect. Did you notice that there's a whisper in the background before she meets Desmond a second time? The whisper is her other memory actually, her ancestors warning her of the upcoming meeting. She wasn't expecting Desmond at that meeting, but it's him her other memory is warning her about. It's a small thing, but I'm glad to see something like this being included in the show. Besides her time at the Emperor's court, we also get to see how the Bene Gesserit operate. We learn that Bene Gesserit both appear in public as truthsayers, but also work as undercover agents. Through this, we learn about their push and pull strategy to maintain the balance of power. It shows how incredibly complex and multifaceted the Bene Gesserit are as a power factor in the Dune universe. With their incredibly large network, they are able to maintain so much control, which helps explain how they have been able to survive as a sisterhood for millennia and carry out their breeding program. When talking to her agent about the rebels on Arrakis, the name Kiran Atreides also comes up. The name Atreides has two important meanings for Valya. On the one hand, she blames the Atreides for the downfall of her family, and on the other, the blood of the Atreides is relevant to the Bene Gesserit breeding program. I'm curious to see if and how she will use the information that Kiran is part of a rebellion against the Atreides. It will be a balancing act for Valya, as she must weigh her personal reservations against the goals of the sisterhood. Whether they come into conflict could be an interesting development for the calculating Valya. Compared to Valya, Tula comes across as more of a caring, compassionate figure who, while also putting the welfare of the sisterhood first, does not want to put others in danger. Finally, she also gives her foster daughter, Lila, the freedom to decide for herself whether she wants to carry out the spice agony or not. This brings us to a question that may have occurred to some while watching. Why was Dorothea, Lila's grandmother, able to kill Lila? The process of the agony is described in the books as overwhelming. A seemingly endless number of voices assault the consciousness and also fight for control of that consciousness. In Lila's case, Dorothea was able to overwhelm Lila's consciousness and take control of her body. You must understand that the Bene Gesserit are capable of controlling every muscle in their bodies, and I mean every muscle. That means they are capable of spasming their heart muscle to the point of death. I suspect this is what happened to Lila when Dorothea took control of her body. Lila's performance of the agony gave Tula the answers she was hoping for, but at the cost of losing her foster daughter. Therefore, both Valya and Tula lost something that was incredibly important to each of them. Valya, her control over the Emperor and his family, and Tula, her foster daughter. If you have been paying attention throughout the episode, you may have noticed how not only the Bene Gesserit, but other women too deliberately manipulate men for their own ends. First, there's Empress Natalya, who convinced her husband to allow Valya to interrogate Desmond Hart. Why is she helping Valya when she clearly dislikes the Bene Gesserit in the first episode? Also, Natalya's motives are unclear. She refers to the sandworms of Arrakis as Shai Hulud, but Shai Hulud is a Fremen term. This raises the question of how a noble woman could be so familiar with the Fremen religion that she even sees Desmond Hart as a prophet. The Fremen are certainly not a people who would like to associate with noble houses of their own free will. So I hope we learn more about Natalya so that this current logic gap can be filled. Then there is Pruwet Richese's sister, who, to put it politely, uses her physical charms to gain information from Constantine Corino about the investigation into her brother's case. In her conversation with the prince, she tells him that she was raised separately from her brother on another distant planet. It's just a guessing game, but how cool would it be if the Bene Gesserit had a hand in this too, and she was some kind of covert agent, perhaps feeding information to the Richese truthsayer. The Bene Gesserit are known for raising noble daughters. What many don't realize is that these daughters consciously or unconsciously can act as agents for the sisterhood. Thank you for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the Bene Gesserit. If you liked the video, please leave a like, and I'll see you at the next episode talk of Dune Prophecy.